Welcome to another episode of the Pennock Knockdown, a podcast where we unpack key strategies and tactics for digital marketing leaders. Today, I've got Jonathan with us. He is the founder and CEO of OneText, where they're building the future of shopping and payments, one text at a time. Jonathan and his co-founder, Daniel Bryan, are the new PayPal Mafia. Their mission at OneText is to make every purchase as effortless as paying with your hotel room number. Their text-to-buy solutions drive incremental sales for top brands including Raycon, Cannon Lane, Culprit, Cremo, and Fireball AT. OneText is backed by rock stars including Y Combinator and the founders of Warby Parker, Allbirds, Harry's, and the lead singer of Muse. So, Jonathan, that's a lot going on right there. I hope I didn't miss too much or leave too much out, but we're so excited to have you on the show today.
You crushed it, and thanks so much for having me, Nikki. It is an honor to be here.
Great. Well, Jonathan, I think the first thing I'd be curious to get into is how did you come up with OneText? Like, what were you doing at that time? Like, how did it come to be?
It's interesting because we are immersed in the space of SMS marketing. That's generally how most of our customers find us. They're looking for an SMS marketing solution, and so we sometimes get questions like, "Okay, so you're a marketing company that has a payments component, right?" And I would actually that's really wrong. Not how we think of ourselves at all. We think of ourselves as a payment company that has an SMS marketing function. So really, our vision, our goal is we want to make shopping on the internet feel as effortless as that experience when you're at a hotel and you pay with your room number. I really believe that is the most magical experience in buying that exists. We think it's also an exciting metaphor for a couple of reasons. One, you have the idea of the concierge, which is something we think a lot about. But the other thing that's interesting is in a hotel, you have different brands that all work together. You might have a Starbucks in the lobby, you might have a gift shop, you might have a spa, the hotel itself. Those could be 3 or 4 different companies. They all collaborate on a shared payment infrastructure to create a delightful experience. And as a result, people spend more money. And so our goal is how do we create that limitless digital hotel that everybody can be a part of? And so for us, it really started with this idea of what is the best possible identity and payment solution. We think the phone number is the best way to identify people. There's always going to be some long number that you have to know. And the phone number is the only number that everyone on the earth has, that everyone on the earth has memorized. And it can do communication. So we think that's the right way to do payment. And then, well, what can you do with that? What's the unlock if a phone number becomes a card on file? We think marketing and messaging and would you like to buy one more thing flows from that. But it really starts with a payments vision and expands outward. And then we layer in conventional SMS marketing tactics plus some things that only we do. And bottom line for brands is incremental sales, incremental conversions. And it allows us to be differentiated player in a crowded space.
Like, what was the aha moment? What were you doing? And maybe you answered this already and I was a little distracted, but what were you doing when this came to life?
Great job reeling me back in a little bit and like answer the damn question. So yeah, there was a moment, and it really was an aha moment where I'm thinking, I was literally on my couch. I was like, oh wow, what if it worked this way? The background is at the time I was working for PayPal on the checkout team. I was building some of PayPal's new mobile experiences, and so was very seeking where is payments going? And there were 2 really big influences. Actually, maybe there were 3. One was we were working on this mobile app payment experience that was like still in the app world, and it was so complicated. And I was thinking, boy, apps are on the one hand amazing, but if you could have a solution that has no app, that's the best thing. And then 2, I was really involved with PayPal's European compliance. No one wants to talk about European payment compliance, but the important thing to know is SMS plays a huge role in securing transactions, and that was interesting. And then we were just seeing the rise of there was a fad of one-click checkout company. Well, there was Fat. There was a company called Skipify. There were a few others in this space, and they all had built really great UX. And it was UX that we were looking at really closely, but they didn't have great go-to-market, right? Because their pitch was, "Hey, you're a brand, you're selling online. What if you give us your most valuable real estate on your website, and just hope that we're a little bit incremental today, and if every merchant in the world uses us, we'll be incredible in like 5 or 6 years." Not a great sales pitch. And so the idea is, well, what if we take some of those UX innovations about making really great recalled identity based payment system? But what if we invert the go to market? So we say, don't give us your best real estate. We don't want to be on your checkout at all. We're never going to be a checker company, but we are going to find your worst customer and turn them into your best customer. We're going to reach out to the people who drop off at the last minute, get them to purchase because we can contact them, uh, and then build a payment network out of that. And the goal is eventually you don't even make it to the checkout page because we recognize you way in advance and we can give you a better experience. That's really the vision. But the aha moment was of this meeting of all the minds and realizing if we approach payment backward, if we get out of the limited world of checkout and think about all of the 80% of people who don't finish their orders instead of the 20 people who are making it through that funnel, what become possible. And that was really, what it's kind of a spark of inspiration and a sense like, hey, we can build this, we can launch it, and if we deliver great results, it's worth going all in on.
That's super awesome. So, yeah, you talked a little bit about the incrementality and like when you're pitching, so let's like roll back the time and I'm sure you're, getting new brands on every single day at this point, but what is the main thing that really connects with the store owners to be like, "Oh, of course, that would like be a no-brainer. Of course, adds value and revenue for us." So, like make that connection because it's still a little fuzzy in my mind.
Absolutely. I mean, the number one thing that we try is we want to prove to you that we can deliver incremental performance. And for some types of brands, that means, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to show you a lot of case studies and we could show you a lot of rigorous head to head. We're, I think the help with this battle bot is we have native A/B testing built into our bot. And we're actually the only company in the texting space that does true actual A/B testing. It's, with several brands, we'll let you say, I want to try copy A versus copy B, but we'll let you do message versus no message or 30-minute delay versus 60-minute delay. And we use a cohort based model. And so we have some really strong head to head data. And so we'll present all of that. Sometimes that's good enough. Uh, the other thing that we do, and this has been a huge unlock for us and real focus for us, is we can say, look, just try it. Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, maybe have an existing relationship with another SMS provider, that's okay. There are some compliant ways that we can add value. So that might look like we'll do your post purchase. We
Mhm.
have a cool direct mail based program that we're spinning up. We have there are a lot of ways that we can drive value for brands, even as their secondary SMS provider, and it allows people to see the one text different and then build competence and scale up. That and also just amazing customers, amazing referrals. Really, that's really it. They do a better job at sales than I do.
Yeah, well, and that's like every founder's dream, right? Is to have that strong referral base coming in. So congrats for that. That says a lot about the product itself. And I think what you just shared with us really ties back to the shopping component and the payment component. Because if you're doing post purchase emails and things like that, you really are in the shopping space and not just a payment partner at that point. So that's really cool. And going to direct mail of all places, like how did that come up?
It was it's an interesting, so very new for us. But there is kind of one bit that I think it at all is anchored on. Uh, in order to make text to buy work, you kind of have to solve a bunch of problems, including things like we need to have a really good way to create carts on demand, right? Which
Mhm.
that makes sense. You say, "Hey, would you like to buy this product?" The shopper says yes. You say, "Okay, great. How about this upsell?" Shopper says yes. When I had to put two products together into a cart, even though the shopper never viewed those products on the site, or maybe they viewed them but they didn't add them to cart. So we had to build our own platform to do that, and we can then use that in a lot of interesting ways. So, on if you're a Shopify brand, your checkout links and your cart links. Well, you first of all, there is no such thing as a cart link in the Shopify world, but it's just a cookie. And checkout links can expire after 14 days. Um, our carts last for 90 days. And we can build a cart from a prior profile. So we started doing things like, well, what if we find everybody who's abandoned a checkout in the last 90 days? We'll build a cart from them, even if they haven't given SMS consent. And then we can send them a QR code. And if you scan that QR code, two things happen. One, you're immediately consented to SMS, technology called anti-text. And then two, we can send you your cart back. And so you get this really nice personal mailer. It's not personalized at the mailing stage. QR code, but everyone scans the code. Everybody gets a personal message with exactly their products sent back to them. So it can be a really personal moment. Again, this is brand new. We're just starting first pilot, but it's an application technology that we have, and it allows brands to get additional consents. And we're seeing that there's a lot of actually money going to direct mail, but a lot of it's hard to direct mail cart recovery. It exists, but it tends to be backed by some of the limitations of what you could do with a normal website cart. And we think it's a good use for the one text cart in general.
That is really interesting. Like, I don't know, there's the lines of people are like, "That's really cool, great technology," and others are like, "Just stop knowing so much about me," right? So, I think it's an interesting time to be doing stuff like that. I personally think that's super cool. I'd love to get a piece of mail, with a QR code to then be personalized for me, like, sounds awesome. Can't wait till one of the brands I shop at is using your products. You kind of talked a little bit about the trackability and how you can track people longer. And I think you said you are not using cookies or something. Like, walk us through like what's going to change in the landscape of like the cookie-less future and all that fun stuff, and what that really means for OneText.
Yeah, it's interesting. Honestly, I'm amazed um, at kind of there's so much infrastructure in place that is dependent on cookies. And I think if you're building, you have to be built like you should assume cookies don't exist, right? Like just start with the assumption there are no cookies. And if you happen to get something to be a cookie, okay, that's cool, that's nice, but that's not something you should rely on in 2025. And so, yeah, we're it's really nice for us because as long as the data exists somewhere in the brand's various different data stores, they have to have a payment provider than Shopify. They maybe even have data from third-party marketplaces. They definitely have data from an email provider. If we can pull all that together and then figure, okay, what's the profile? What is the next best cart for the shopper? Can we send them an offer and then edit the offer as they tell us what they're interested in, whether that's because they reply to a text message or because they do something on the website, we get that data. So that's really how we think about it is we build our own model for what the shopper wants to buy, and then we put it together on a link unless the shopper has a cart on file. And we put it together internally and we say, hey, Nikki, this is your cart. Would you like to purchase it? The shopper replies, yeah. The normal entry point for us is we do some cart recovery. We do a lot of a lot of pushing offers to people. So you'll get a message that says, "Hey, we saw these items. Are you interested in these? Can I answer any questions?" Shopper replies, "Yes." We either link them to a payment form or we ring them up with their card on file. So there is a usage of customer data to inform the experience. But we do everything we can without a cookie. And one of the cool things about that, this shocked us. Um, but uh, about 80% of the volume comes from carts, not checkout. So if you're sending any kind of request today, 80% of your at bats are at the cart stage. And if you abandon the cart inside a Meta app view, so think an Instagram session or a Facebook session, no other platform can actually really recover that cart. Right? You'll have this experience where the shopper abandons in a Meta app view, and then they get a link that takes them to their default browser. And because the cookies are different, it breaks into a lot of message volume. Right? There probably are hundreds of millions of text messages sent every day that are sending shoppers to empty carts saying, "Click here to finish the order you started." That's not a great experience. And so if you can hold the data in your own platform, you can deliver a better and higher converting flow for your buyer.
Got it. And then to be clear, you're not collecting the data per se, you're getting the data from the brand, and then you're figuring out how to leverage it for the services you provide.
And we're acting on behalf of our brands. So when you message doesn't say, "Hey, Nikki, this is Sarah from OneText," it'll say this is or from Cremo or Sarah from Katie Lane or any of the other brands. And it's often there. The name of our closer, but we have a couple different agents that we depends on the brand as well. It's always identified as I am so and so with this brand, and we don't share data across brands unless there's been explicit shopper consent and also merchant consent as well for something. So it's very much in this world of we are helping the brand to reach the brand's customers. We don't want to do anything creepy. crossing lines or sharing information that you no one likes that experience where you get unexpectedly tracked and you're like, wait a minute, someone gave out my information. That's we want to be as far away from that as we can.
I know, nothing like a monthly, newsletter cleanup, right? We're all guilty of doing that from time to time. So, I'd love to we'll get into some marketing questions because I have to ask you about marketing, as a marketing agency. But if what is, like, the biggest misconception or what are people getting wrong about what you're bringing to the table that you just kind of wish was easier to educate or everyone kinda knew at this point?
I would say, um, I think there kind of are two big things. One is just generally how much opportunity there is for incremental performance. I think most people have it in their head, and for most of the time, it's correct. But if you're evaluating existing SMS platform, we'll call big SMS, it most comes down to the support that you get from the team, which of course matters a lot. And it mostly comes down to then it's kind of commodity level service. Maybe some platforms have better dashboards or will have a dashboard that lets you do something, but the fundamental message that you're sending is the same. Um, we think that's just a limitation of kind of old, stodgy players. And so we want to deliver messages that are highly differentiated and highly incremental. So I think most people underrate how much interesting, personalized communication you can do and the amount of lift that's possible, right? I mean, we have brands that are provably getting about a 2 to 4% increase in their top line e-commerce revenue just from messages that are only possible with one text. And that's meaningful, right? That can be multiple employees that you hire as well as. So I think people underrate that, and I think the second thing that people underrate, and this is the single hardest thing we go up against, honestly, perceived difficulty of switching. We talk to a lot of brands and say, "Wow, this is really cool," but boy, if it's gonna be just months to move everything over, it's gonna be so hard, and I get that. But we do everything we can to make it flipping a switch. We import Flip. We have a team that's an expert in onboarding. If you most brands don't transition SMS players very often, but we have people who do it every single day, right? So they're really good at moving you over, and we say, let's just stand back. We'll move it over. We'll test everything. We'll make sure you get it done well. So we want to evangelize this idea that you can switch. You can switch in. You can switch out if you don't like it. Move over. Move back. Takes a couple days to port a number. Uh, and we want it to be as fast and as simple as possible. And I think we've done a good job on the experience. A lot of work to do in terms of perception, which is lagging behind.
Yep. Well, great. That's great to hear. And I mean, you had already mentioned how your brand's clients are referring more business your way. So obviously a sign that the onboarding process is probably going quite well. Great. Well, I mean, I do think that's the biggest pain point. We don't do email or SMS at my agency, but I know even in working with brands, like they really hate the idea of making switches like that for the reasons you just mentioned. That sound much more complicated, it sounds like, than they have to be. Uh, let's move into it. Let's talk about, some of what you've tested or seen being tested with the clients you're working on in the marketing landscape. So would love to kinda walk through maybe I like to start with something that didn't work as planned, so this could be something that you expected to work or maybe you kinda knew all along was just like a flyer. Walk me through something you've done recently or been part of that, didn't prove to be successful for business.
Yeah, there's one that screams at the top of mind, and is one that kinda hurts a little bit. Uh, Emoji, from what we can tell, add no value at all, in text message marketing space. I don't know if it's different in email and in, ad. There might be places where they really add a lot of value, but they are, if anything, they are actually negative in texting, and SMS marketing. And it's especially it sounds like, "Okay, all right, whatever, it's emoji." It's a huge impact because emoji effectively can double or triple your cost per send because of some weird things how texting works. So emoji are extremely expensive, and we love them. Like, we put them in all of our communications. There's like our entire website has groups, right? Like, we want to be almost the emoji company in a lot of how we present ourselves. But when we look at the data, it's not there. You should get rid of your emoji if you're sending text messages. They're gonna probably inflate your costs. So that's something that we've seen that's kind of defined expectations. The other thing that we've seen is that, sometimes, uh, sometimes shoppers really, even when know you have a good model of what a shopper wants to buy, we found that sometimes you have to kind of warm shoppers back up. So if they haven't heard from you in a while, reaching out with a really nicely tailored, "Hey, we have a message that we think is just going to be, exactly the products that you want." You kinda gotta get them back in your system a little bit. So we're working on some flows right now where we help warm people up, and then we send them a personalized offer. That's a place where we're doing a lot of experiments. And I realized I've been very much answering this on the sort of what are things that we've learned that I think are impactful for brand. There are a whole lot of other learnings that are happening in terms of how we're doing our marketing as well, which is something we're shifting up a lot, and making some big changes in. I don't really know if you want to go in that direction.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to just, but first I wanna go back and see, do you think that there's a corner case for emojis to work for, like, Gen Z, Gen Alpha brands or, like, lower consideration purchases, maybe won't need as many touch points? Like, are you finding any other kinda common thread that there are corner cases by which those things could work that you just said you found proof they don't work?
We definitely recommend testing them, and every brand should try it out. It's especially hard, and look, and if you're writing an email or something, like, you're probably not gonna see like, I would actually be kind of based off what we've seen, I will be surprised if you're seeing that they're either adding or removing a lot of value on their own. But because of the way that text messages are encoded, they are extremely expensive, and so what we've seen is that they're at best neutral for conversion, and they are very expensive in terms of send costs. So it's a pretty clear do not use them unless you're seeing a really, really strong case measured through repeated A/B tests. So we would say run the test, try it out. Send one version with emoji, send one without. It's probably a good test to do in all of your communication, but an SMS, like you should have I would encourage every brand out there to assume a guilty before proven innocent, right? Emoji are bad unless you can show a test that shows otherwise. You should start with that assumption.
Got it. Okay, that's pretty clear. I want to be mindful of our time, so maybe I'll ask you your question or my question about B2B marketing off camera. But so let's move into something then that does work really well in your line of work in terms of marketing practices.
Lose. A couple things that we've seen. Um, Asking open-ended questions. Actually asking open-ended questions, but then telling the shopper how to reply. We've seen
Mhm.
that really, really well. If you say, "Hey, can I make a recommendation for you?" No matter how powerful your technology at handling that reply is, it's not gonna get anyone to respond. Um, but, uh, but if you say, "Can I make a recommendation for you? Here are some of our top choices, A, B, and C," just by sending that as a nudge, send it as an extra message, 2 amazing things happen. One, you're gonna get more people who click the link. So even though you're reaching out you're sending a message with no link in it as a follow-up with a question, you're going to get more people who click the link because you're reminding them they should have clicked the link a couple of hours ago. So do that. And then two, you're going to get people who actually reply to the message and engage. And if you have a good way to reply and send people recommendations, you're going to get people who convert through that. So we are sends an extra nudge, if and you just increased your budget a little bit because you got rid of the emoji. So you have that extra kind of cap space to send a message. So we would recommend being more nudgy. We've seen that really work. Sending extra messages, asking questions, but then telling people how to reply so that they're not guessing. We've seen that make a big difference. The other thing that we've seen there is extraordinary, extraordinary, and sometimes irrational um, focus on shipping costs. Shoppers, anything that is an add-on to the base cost, whether it's I know that there's some brands right now who are doing things like tariff fee at the end, which I have so much sympathy or empathy for where our brands are coming from. I know it's a huge hit. Um, just from what we've seen, if you can build them into your prices, it's likely going to be better, softer on your conversion than if you put them in at the end because drip pricing just really can drive people crazy. Uh, so the free shipping fee really, really bothers people, or the shipping fee bothers people. So anytime you can give people, even if you can lower your discounts and then give people a way to get to free shipping, whether that's an upsell or an add-on, it's worth it. And we're trying to help brands basically say, hey, maybe you're below the shipping tier, but we'll insert a promotional product into your cart to get you up to free shipping. Offers like that, so that any shopper feels like they have an easy way to get free shipping. It's going to help your conversion, especially if you're targeting for first time shoppers.
That's interesting to think about, and anything that's bringing up AOV in general, I think, no one on the brand side is gonna be disappointed with that, so love it. Um, Moving on, like, we're midway through basically by the time this comes out, 2025. What are some trends that you're excited about in the future of marketing or just deploying within your campaigns that you maybe haven't had a good chance to test just yet?
I'm really excited about and kind of the direction that we see things going is that today, most shoppers get the same message. And it's pretty much true about everyone you work with. There are some people out there who are maybe trying to do crazy A/B testing, right? But still, the goal is like you got to find the right message. Our approach and what where we're investing in is shopper specificity. So we want to send the best possible message to Nikki and then the best possible message to Sam and Jacob, and everybody should get their own message, whether that's their own offer, um, their own discount, their own framing, their own product. There might be you might have a brand like in the skincare space. There so many different subcategories and sub interests to pull people in. So hit people with it. The moisturizer customer should get a different message, even if it's their 20% off site wide sale, right? Give that shop, you say 20% off our moisturizers is part of our site wide sale. The clay mask customer gets a clay mask forward message. Uh, Want to be doing, widespread personalization scale, we think that's going to add a lot of value, and it's going to basically, we're at a point where, we've always had, I think, a higher share of our messages being written by our system and being written by a brand marketer with lots of controls from the brand marketer. But we think it's going to increasingly veer toward approaching 100% of messages sent are shopper specific, personalized, pulled, but not written by someone on the brand side. So I think that's a change that I'm really excited to see.
That is super exciting. I can't wait to see it either as a consumer. So all of this is music to my ears. As we wrap, Jonathan, I think one of the questions we like to wrap with is if you were to start all over again and just be at the very beginning of OneText, what advice would you give yourself?
Yeah, it's such a great question. I would say number one, start earlier. Number two, it's like I think one of the things, especially as an entrepreneur, um, but really for anyone, I think this is even if you are thinking that you aren't sure what's ahead of you, but you're just looking at for general advice. People underrate the risk of not taking a risk. I think people look at founding a business and they're saying, "Oh, there's an upside, but there's a risk." People don't realize that if you just kind of stay where you are, that is actually a risky thing. So you live with more risk than you realize, and so you need to compensate that by taking strategic bets. So take more bets, take more moonshot, be more aggressive at kind of setting high targets and going for it. And then I think in our case, I really wish we had. Um, I think we've kept the team actually smaller than we needed to at times. I think that there is we've tried to be restrained about some of how we handle things. And I think that there is, at least in our case, we're seeing that we need to be letting the floodgates go a little bit, doing more experiments, just being bigger at everything we can. We'll find ways to do it. But I think there's been maybe, at least on our end, too much restraint. So that's our version. We need to be kind of pushing more on the table, being more aggressive. And that's a change we're implementing.
That's awesome. If people want to get in touch with you, Jonathan, where should we send them?
Uh, Check out OneText.com. And then also, if you follow me on Twitter, I still say Twitter at jfudem. I'm also on LinkedIn as well. I have to go on LinkedIn. I've got we're in texting. So my phone number, you can find my phone number. Send me a text.
That seems very appropriate for the business you're in. Love it. Well, I think in summary, you wrapped with take more moonshots. I love that. Jonathan's moonshot led him to this ability to grow incremental lift on top line. I think you cited 4-ish% lift on top line. I'm sure it's higher for many brands, but I mean, that's big growth right there. So really awesome to have you on the show today and learn more about what OneText and what you're doing. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It was wonderful.
All right. See you next time.